right, welcome to lesson 14 for Algebra 2. Today we're going to be talking about finding the equation of a line under two different circumstances. The first one is when they give us 2 points, and the second circumstance is when they give us 1 point and the slope. So let's get started. This first example, they want us to find the equation of this line given that it passes through the points -3, 2, and 3, -3. And so I went ahead and I graphed it just for us to have a visual of what this line looks like. There should be an arrow up here as well because this is a line. And so what we have to remember is when working with y equals mx plus b, there's two things that we need to find. One is we need to find our y-intercept, and two is we need to find our slope. So you'll notice in this line, now obviously this is not drawn to scale, on graph paper it will look a little bit more accurate, but our line does not cross the y-axis at an integer. So our y-intercept is going to be our fraction. And so because of that, it's better to work with equations rather than just guessing and saying, that looks like 1/2. Instead, let's go ahead and be precise. So what we're going to do first is we're going to try to find our slope because we have 2 points, so we can find our rise over run. So let's do that first. And looking at this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a right triangle. Okay, so I have my right triangle. And we already know that for our slope, this is negative because it's going downhill. But asking myself, I went from a y value of 2 to a y value of -3. So how far of a drop was that? And it was 5 units. And then going from -3 to 3 would be a run of 6. So that's simple. I just found my slope. You may not always want to actually graph this out to find your slope. So there is also an equation that we can use to find this if you don't want to graph it out. So let's go ahead and go over that equation. Okay, so our equation for finding the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and call these my x2 and y2, and this is going to be my x1 and y1. And we're just going to plug those in and see what it looks like. So y2 is going to be -3 minus y1, which would be 2. And then our x2 is 3 minus -3. So this is going to become +6. So we get -5 over +6, which is what we came up with earlier. So this just shows you that it does work. You don't always have to graph out the points. So we found our slope. So now that we found our slope, we can use that information plus one of our given points to find our y-intercept. Right now, I have 4 variables in my equation. So there's no way I can actually solve for my y-intercept unless I replace m with my slope and my x and my y values with one of my coordinates. So let's go ahead and replace all of that, and then we'll see that we only have b left, so we can solve and get our y-intercept. So I'm going to go with this bottom point of 3, -3. So -3 equals -5 over 6 times positive, and I'm going to go ahead and make it 3 over 1, plus b. So -3 equals -15 over 6 plus b, and we're going to move this to the other side, so it's going to be adding 15 over 6, and that's gone. So b equals, okay, well now we have to make this common denominator. So this is going to be 6, and then this will be 18. So this will be -3 over 6, which will equal -1/2. And just real quick, this is also a reason why we don't just look at this y-intercept and guess what it is, because if we had guessed 2/3, we would have been wrong because it is -1/2. And so now I'm going to take my y-intercept and my slope, plug them into y equals mx plus b, and then I'll have the equation of my line. And here we have it, y equals -5/6x minus 1/2. That's the equation of my line. Our second concept in this lesson is going to be very similar, except in this case, they're going to give us the slope in just one line. So great thing about this is that they have already done the first step for us of finding our slope. So find the equation of the line that passes through -4, 7 and has a slope of -3/5. Well, we already know our slope, so step 1 is done. So now we can just jump into plugging in our slope and our coordinate here and just isolating for our y-intercept. So we're going to have 7 equals -3/5 times negative 4 over 1 plus b. Okay, and now we're going to multiply it out and we're going to solve for b. So 7 over 1 equals positive 12 over 5 plus b, so I'm going to be subtracting that. So that's gone. And then I'm going to make this be 35 over 5. So we're going to end up with a positive 23 over 5 for our b. And now that I know my slope and my y-intercept, I just plug them into my formula and then we have our equation. So y equals, instead of m, I'm going to say negative 3 over 5 x plus 23 over 5. And that's it. We have found the equation of our line.